This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Over the last 24 hours, some interesting news is being reported about the Queen and Prince Harry's relationship and the exact moment Prince Harry blew this relationship with the Queen. According to the Daily Mail and other media outlets, Prince Harry allegedly blew his relationship with Queen Elizabeth shortly before his 2018 wedding to Meghan Markle. The monarch, who died in 2022 at age 96, felt quote-unquote left out of the Duke of Sussex wedding plans, according to royal biographer Sally Bedell-Smith, who operates a Substack. And on this Substack, she wrote about the former military pilot, 40, was rude to his granny for about 10 minutes in a February 2018 meeting about the nuptials, leaving the Queen very worried about the besotted and weak groom. Now, we all know that Meghan was a predator. She preyed on Prince Harry, pretended to be everything that Harry would be looking for in a wife, and then also reminding Harry of his mother. Of course, we know that Harry was manipulated. So this royal blogger, Sally Bedell-Smith, goes on to write, the late Queen was dismayed that Harry had asked the Archbishop of Canterbury to perform the wedding service in St. George's Chapel without first requesting permission from the Dean of Windsor. She goes on to say that Elizabeth was additionally aggrieved that Meghan would not reveal her wedding dress details prior to walking down the aisle. She also wrote that the late Queen was bothered by Meghan and Prince William and Catherine's not working well together leading up to the ceremony. And although this might sound like this is breaking news all of a sudden surfacing, it really isn't, because this story is being recycled. Back in 2022, after the Queen had passed away, The Mirror went on to publish this article about a new book that was being written by Katie Nicholl, alleging that Meghan and Harry's wedding was very difficult for the Queen. And at the time, this new book that was about to come out was that the relationship with her grandson was badly damaged. And it goes on to say that the Queen found the run-up to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's wedding very difficult. A distant relative of Her Majesty claimed, according to a new book. And this distant relative is the Queen's cousin. As it says here, back in 2022, the late Queen Elizabeth II was also said to be very upset by how her grandson had treated her, it was further alleged. Some of the highly publicized details about the run-up to the 2018 wedding have included an alleged argument between Meghan and Catherine Middleton over the bridesmaids' dresses. There was also reportedly a row over what tiara the bride was going to borrow. Katie Nicholl's new book, The New Royals, Queen Elizabeth's Legacy and the Future of the Crown, goes on to quote Lady Elizabeth Anson, the late Queen's first cousin once removed. Lady Anson, who died in 2020, is quoted as saying, "The run-up to the wedding was really very difficult for the Queen. She was very upset by how Harry had behaved and some of his demands and the way he went about things in his own way. For example, he asked the Archbishop of Canterbury to marry them before consulting the Queen and the Dean of Windsor, which wasn't the correct way to do things. I think she was dismayed by his attitude in general, and I remember her speaking to him and her being rather upset by how beastly Harry was being. Their relationship was quite badly damaged by it all." The book also alleges that the Queen was exhausted by the decision of Harry and Meghan stepping down from the firm. It claims the late Queen Elizabeth II confided to a close friend that she was exhausted by the decision. The source said, "She was very hurt and told me, I don't know, I don't care, and I don't want to think about it anymore." Now, the other little nugget that came out of Katie Nicholl's book back in 2022 was the Queen having reservations of Meghan Markle wearing a pure white dress to marry Prince Harry. And according to this book, the Queen didn't find that it was appropriate to do so and should have worn off-white since it wasn't Meghan's first marriage. So now fast forward to these articles. I don't think anybody is shocked to see that the Queen thought Meghan was trouble from day one. The late Queen's cousin allegedly had said that we hope but don't quite think Meghan Markle is in love. We think she engineered it all. And I think a lot of us understood that that was the case. Meghan was very calculated in how she went about suckering this prince to marry her. And, when you look at everything that has gone on, the lies and the stories that were being told and how things just didn't make any kind of sense about this woman, I think it's safe to say that Meghan was a honeypot. And the goal was to infiltrate into the royal family and sucker this guy to go away with her to do the things that we have been witnessing them do here in the United States. I'm sure the Queen knew a lot of stuff about who this woman is, and that's why she was so upset over it. Meghan is not who she pretended herself to be in front of the world as well as to this family. And the Queen knew that. I think what's important to recognize here is that this is a story that came out back in 2022. This was already known. I think spinning that the Queen was really saddened and upset that Meghan didn't share the details of her wedding dress before the wedding, I think is a bit much. Does anybody really believe that the Queen was depressed over the fact that Meghan closed herself off and wouldn't talk to her about this wedding dress? No. Now, I do believe that the Queen was very upset over this wedding, not because Meghan turned out to be the bitch that she is, but because she found out some things about this woman and could not do anything to stop this wedding due to something being held over the Queen's head, whether it be dealing with the Epstein situation or Prince Andrew. But I believe that Meghan had some sort of blackmail being held over the family, and that's why this wedding was allowed to go through. Because I don't see the Queen allowing this bully to just have her way and get away with it unless there was something that was really jeopardizing the family and the crown. And I do believe that Meghan was a threat. Now, I want to read to you what the Daily Beast has had to say about this, and then I'm going to tell you what I think is really happening here. So the Daily Beast literally just published this article stating the Queen feared Meghan didn't really love Harry and engineered royal match. Tom Sykes writes, the late Queen Elizabeth was left very worried about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle just 2 weeks before the wedding. The Queen's relationship with Prince Harry was irrevocably damaged by Harry being rude to her in the run-up to the 2018 nuptials. She was also upset after Meghan Markle refused to share details of the wedding dress with her. The shock claims were allegedly made by the Queen's first cousin and one of her best and most trusted friends, Lady Elizabeth Anson. Anson, who died in 2020, is said to have made the remarks in a series of conversations with the credible and respected journalist and royal biographer Sally Biddle-Smith, who has now published them in her Substack, Royal Extra. Lady Elizabeth, also known as Liza, was born in Windsor Castle to the Queen Mother's sister and was a high society party planner who organized events large and small for the Queen throughout her life. She was deeply familiar with the Queen's thinking and was understood to have been a trusted source of royal intelligence for several royal correspondents over the years, like Katie Nicholl. Biddle-Smith said that just days before Meghan and Harry's wedding, Anson told her, "We hope, but don't quite think she's in love. We think she engineered it all." Liza was not hired to organize Harry and Meghan's wedding, and she said that a meeting with Meghan was pointless and that Meghan had fobbed her off when she made suggestions. Eventually, Harry wrote to Liza to say they were going another way. Liza told Biddle-Smith that Harry said, "I am close to my grandmother, and she is content with this." When I spoke with the Queen, she said she is not at all content. Biddle-Smith adds that according to Liza, the Queen was dismayed after Harry asked the Archbishop of Canterbury to marry them without first requesting the necessary ecclesiastical permissions. Liza told Biddle-Smith, "Harry seems to think the Queen can do what she wants, but she can't. Harry has blown his relationship with his grandmother." She said she was really upset. "I was shocked when the Queen told me this, how she was so saddened. I had no idea about the conversation, that he was rude to her for 10 minutes. Biddle-Smith says that when she spoke to the Queen 2 weeks before the May 19th wedding, Liza had just heard from the Queen. The number one lady says the jury is out on whether she likes Meghan. She is very worried. Liza then said, "Harry is besotted and weak about women. 1 week ahead of the wedding, Liza told Bedell Smith, "Meghan and William and Kate are not working well," said Liza. That is what the Queen said, particularly about the two girls. It's worrying that so many people are questioning whether Meghan is right for Harry. The problem, bless his heart, is that Harry is neither bright nor strong, and she is both. Now, after reading this and revisiting what was said back in 2022, I do believe that there is a strong element of truth to all of this. I believe that the Queen absolutely despised this snake that managed to infiltrate her family, but she could not do anything about it. Now, we have been witnessing for the last now going on 8 years how nasty Harry can be behind the scenes. So there's no doubt in my mind he was threatening the Queen by saying, well, if you don't allow me to marry this woman, then we're going to tell the media that you are racist. Yeah, I could totally see Harry in this situation using emotional blackmail to get what he wanted, because that's what they do with these phantom children with the king. He most likely told the Queen, if Meghan leaves me and I don't marry her and I lose her, I'm going to unalive myself. I mean, I'm sure that excuse has been used more than once. Come to think of it, it wasn't really Meghan who was holding this blackmail over the family. I think it was Harry holding the blackmail over the family to get what he wanted. And it was Meghan behind him whispering in his ear saying, "You see, Harry, you see how they're treating me? It's not fair. I don't need this." And Harry, desperate to hold on to Meghan, did what he needed to do to get what Meghan wanted. But that doesn't mean that Meghan doesn't have her own set of information that she could weaponize at any time against the royal family and Prince Harry. You bet she has information. During the whole love bombing phase and convincing Harry how in love she is with him and wants to be with him for the rest of her life and will lead a life of service, stupid fool, ended up telling her things that he probably should not have, that could potentially hurt and damage the institution. Perhaps maybe about Prince Andrew, perhaps maybe about the royals' business and financial affairs. I think there's a lot of information that Meghan has in her possession that could be potentially damaging to the reputation of the crown. And I believe that the reason why Harry and Meghan keep harping on history repeating itself is that I do think that Meghan is legit scared that something is going to happen to her to get her to shut up. And I don't think it has anything to do with the safety of being in the UK. Harry has proved that he's able to go to the UK undetected and also protected. This has everything to do with Meghan looking over her shoulder every single day now because of the things that she has done and the things that she knows. It's not us, regular folk, that she's afraid of. Now, I believe, and this is my opinion, that Meghan did everything that she was hired to do, which was infiltrate into the royal family, trap this prince, and then bring him back to the United States for him to be compromised, which, when I say compromise, I'm talking about the whole laundry list of things that Meghan set her husband up for, like interfering with the 2020 elections, like being a part of the censorship industrial complex and censoring American voices and violating the First Amendment rights, like knowing about January 6th, like having a relationship with Christopher Boozy. I mean, the list is a long one. And Meghan sets this up to conveniently make Harry the fall guy on all of it. The Queen is right, and I would agree with her. I don't think Meghan ever loved Harry. That's why she was able to treat him the way that she did. Harry is never going to leave Meghan because she essentially took everything away from him, and she is all that he has left, and those two phantom kids. Now, I have been saying this for quite some time now. Meghan is never going to divorce Harry unless she has something better waiting for her that can replace what she's got now. It's unfortunate for Harry that no wealthy man is going to want to take his trash. And the same thing goes for Harry. Like, there's no self-respecting woman that's going to want to end up with someone so broken. Harry's going to attract the same kind as Meghan. So, the best is for them to stay together. But with Meghan, I could honestly see her driving Harry to a point where he just says, F it, I just want to unalive myself. And I do believe that that would be a route that Meghan would prefer to take than being this divorcee. Of course, Meghan would love to have her own Jackie O little John moment in front of a casket. I mean, we have seen Meghan has absolutely no shame in exploiting Prince Harry's mother. Why would this be any different? It's not. I mean, look at what she did today by launching her wine on the late Diana, Princess of Wales' birthday. Does anybody not find this in bad taste? Launching alcohol on the day of your dead mother-in-law's birthday who died from a drunk driver? I mean, come on. This is like so on brand for Meghan. Anything that she can do to be controversial so people can just talk about her. I just find her disgusting. Like, I don't understand the logic in why she does it, because what money is she making from it? Okay, so Meghan launches a wine that's not even hers. It's from some other vineyard that she is slapping her label on. Is this going to be successful? Most likely not, like everything else. And it's all by design because it's not intended to be a success. All of this, I believe, is just a front, so they can get her through the next couple of years in order to double back down again to try what they were doing back in 2019 and 2020. Folks, this garbage is all just to keep us occupied for the next couple of years. And I hate to say it, but we're going to continue to keep seeing this nonsense unless something is done by the authorities, which is why we have to continue to keep making the noise and trying to get the attention of the right people to take action. Now, the final thing that I want to say here is that I would like to think that Prince William is behind getting this recycled story about how much the Queen hated Meghan to trend and to dominate the headlines, just to overshadow Meghan's launch of her shitty wine and taking advantage of his dead mother's birthday. Somehow I feel like this was poetic justice and Meghan's getting exactly what she deserves and being exposed for the nasty fraud that she is. One could hope that this was intentional. And, I'm glad to see that these stories are trending over this stupid woman's fake business that she's trying to promote. Remember, this distraction with the business is to keep us entertained and distracted. But we still have to pay attention to the things that they're not telling us and looking into the people that still choose to surround themselves with Harry and Meghan and that Archewell Fugazi public charity. Now, in my last video, I had talked about Harry participating in this Nexus Summit and supporting on behalf of the Sustainable Media Center. Well, more information has come to light that I would like to share with you. So after I had put up on X talking about how the Sustainable Media Center is tied to the very same people of this censorship industrial complex, a user on X who does excellent research had informed me that James Holt is a part of the Sustainable Media Center. Now, keep in mind, James Holt is from the UK. What the F is he doing sitting on the board of Sustainable Media Center that helped influence the primaries here in New York City to choose this Islamist Mamdani? Now, yesterday, I was attempting to do a video on this, but I can't tell you how infuriated I am to see James Holt's face being involved with this organization in the capacity that he's at, because this is an organization that had affected the primaries here in New York City, the place where I live. Now, we have a socialist that very well could get elected into office, which he would like to not only jack up the taxes on the wealthy who are all going to leave, which will then fall on people like me having to give more, but also bring us to this communist state.
We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing, ending subsidies for luxury housing development and using our wealth to build beautiful, high-quality social housing projects that offer good homes and strong communities to everyone. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do, and we have history to guide us.
So now you can see why I'm a bit irritated and infuriated that Harry and Meghan had a hand in influencing this guy winning the primaries here in New York City, giving him one step closer to becoming mayor. And I'm sorry, but Harry and Meghan have no business influencing in this capacity, let alone, a UK person on US soil driving this shit. And this is why I'm so angry to see this, because back in 2021, when Harry and Meghan were coming to New York and Meghan decided to take it upon herself and put all the names of the people that perished from 9/11 on her website just to drive traffic, I had had enough. I took it very personal because it's like, how dare you take my friends and family who had perished to use for your stupid fucking website? I mean, it would be one thing if they asked permission from the families or at least had some tie to New York City, but to take those names as their own to do whatever they wanted, I'm sorry, but that was very offensive. And this too is very offensive, having an Islamist who is now potentially going to be running my city. Now, can you understand why this is so infuriating to see? It's like a total slap in the face, especially to those who were there that day on 9/11, including myself, who witnessed the horror of what Islamists had done. Islamists who hate America. And here's a guy who wants to completely overhaul our system to install principles and laws based on his political and social value system, which is supporting communism and socialism. No. Now, and I have to say, props to Daily Empress who tackled this subject last night, because it's important that we talk about this and bring awareness to what is going on. If you're an American, you should be concerned about how Harry and Meghan have been influencing the youth here and where their money is going to affect decisions like elections. Now, I hope Daily Empress doesn't mind that I'm using some of her material from yesterday, but I think that she explained it really well of what's going on here with Harry and Meghan and these globalists.
I'm going to look at it. I'm sure TRG is going to cover this, but I couldn't help. I wanted to look at it as well. And you see James Holt is here on this Sustainable Media Center. So that's the name of the NGO they've made to bring in the censorship. Now, we already know that Meghan is part of the World Economic Forum because she spoke at the One Young Leader, which is a World Economic Forum, and Harry and Meghan were both on stage, and Meghan wearing that ridiculous red outfit, communist red. And then this is a World Economic Forum organization, and it's even on the World Economic Forum website. They list them on there, One Young World. So we already knew Meghan works for World Economic Forum. But now we know that Meghan, Harry, and James Holt are affecting our elections and helped to get a communist elected mayor of New York by targeting the young people, right? We've known all along Harry and Meghan have been targeting the young people with everything they do. And they've been working through this organization called Sustainable Media Center. This is where they've been working out of or through with James Holt and others. And wait till you see some of the connections that come up here in a second. So, you can look at this. It's a very simple fake website. It's a communist website trying to make it look like they're doing something good when they're really not. But you see all the communists behind it. These are the boards and trustees. Now, there's one person I want you to look at here. His name is Steve Rosenbaum, board member, executive director of this sustainable media. James Holt is also on a board here. He's under entertainment, media, and technology right here, James Holt.
Now, real quick, I just want to pause and show you this. The person that's next to James Holt is Frances Hagan. Who remembers who she is? She was actually the whistleblower from Facebook and is connected also with Meghan.
So James Holt works for Archwell, and he works for this group. Now, going back to this man here, Steve Rosenbaum, he's not only board of director and working with James Holt with this organization to help bring communism into America. He also, if you go back to the tweet here, in reply to TRG, there's a Twitter account called Truth Above All, who is doing amazing work and finding connections. And that Stephen Rosenbaum that works with James Holt there, executive director of Sustainable Media, he also wrote about Harry and Meghan when they had that screens, when they put all the dead children on large screens and brought the parents in to upset them and to feed off of their pain and suffering that Meghan loves doing. She did it at Uvalde, and then Harry and Meghan did it here, where they're trying to bring in censorship and they're trying to claim that trolls on social media caused all these kids to die, Well, this man, as you can see with Harry and Meghan, Steve Rosenbaum, is working very closely with Harry and Meghan and James Holt to bring in the communism here. Person there. And here again is another connection. Oh, here is, okay. Watch this. Steve Rosenbaum again, and he's on a future house with World Economic Forum. So Steve Rosenbaum is directly from the World Economic Forum, and he's working with James Holt and Harry and Meghan.
Also, I'd like to point out, if you look at the bottom left corner, that guy Daniel Barkay, he comes from the Center for Humane Tech. You know, Meghan's bestie, Tristan, who is the CEO of that company. Yeah, that's the company that he works for. So you can see that they're running in all the same circles and working all together with the WEF. They're all part of this plan on tearing down free speech and implementing this globalist shit.
He's behind this, a World Economic Forum, Steve Rosenbaum, working with James Holt, Harry and Meghan. So World Economic Forum was behind this, is the bottom line. Everything Harry and Meghan do is World Economic Forum. It's globalists.
I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If you want to watch the rest of the video, I'll link it below. I don't want to take the views away from her. But yeah, I mean, that is the main point here, is that everything, and I've said this before, everything that Harry and Meghan have been doing, forget about all the distraction and the lies and the craziness that we're seeing. They're still holding to carrying out the things that King Charles is very passionate about when it comes to following in line with the WEF and this Agenda 2030. This ties into what Buckingham Palace released today, which has me a bit concerned.
Well, King Charles is now officially in charge of saving the planet. No, this is not satire. Buckingham Palace today confirmed in their annual report that the monarch's job description had been amended to include providing leadership on, quote, environmental sustainability, presumably with a sceptre in one hand and a reusable shopping bag in the other. The Palace report says the King will be, and again I quote, taking action to protect climate and nature in everything we do and encouraging others to do the same.
Now, I'm not going to talk about the UK, Australia, Canada, and all the other realms that belong under this guy's kingdom. If you're an American, this should really turn you off, because it certainly does turn me off. Like, who voted this guy to be the one to be the savior of the planet? Like, he's going to be telling people on how they should live, how they can conserve, while he and his family have probably one of the largest carbon footprints. Like, my one trip a year, if that, is not going to make or break this earth in half. You know what I'm saying? This is why I struggle so much to believe that Harry and Meghan are totally cut off from the institution, because everything that they have been doing on the DL does apply to this Agenda 2030 and this globalist push. Harry and his travalysts and monitoring people's carbon footprints. Then you have African Parks, who is taking land away from the indigenous people under the name of conservation. You also have, like, Harry and Meghan over here trying to undermine the U.S. Constitution and tear down free speech. Like, wake up. Like, for those that say that the king has no influence and that the royals don't get involved in politics, bullshit, they don't.
But fear not, King Charles is taking his role as climate messiah very seriously. The palace proudly announced it had, and I quote, worked to restore or upcycle over 60 items of furniture. Nothing says we feel your pain to a working class Brit like giving a distressed leather lounge a second chance at life. But it gets better. The same report also boasts that the palace spent £605,000 re-landscaping a rose garden at Windsor Castle, quote, using more sustainable plants. Nothing screams climate hero like having your subjects pay to re-landscape the rose garden. Britain's biggest threat isn't mass illegal immigration or a crumbling economy. No, it's unsustainable shrubbery. Charles isn't so much defending the realm as defending the rhododendrons, one royal petal at a time. To be honest, this nonsense tells us more about the state of the monarchy than it does about the climate. Once upon a time, kings defended empires. King Net Zero will defend compost heaps and recycling bins. Meanwhile, everyday Britons, condemned to live in glorified shoeboxes with smart meters and guilt, are being lectured on sustainability by a man whose carbon footprint requires its own postcode. I especially liked this quote from the King's annual report. Sustainability remained a focus for the household, with initiatives including the electrification of the official car fleet. Most Britons managed to sustain themselves without a fleet, official or otherwise.
You know, maybe I would see this a little bit differently if I was part of the aristocracy, but Yeah, unfortunately, I am a peasant like many. And from what I've seen over the last 4 years, it has been crushing these climate policies to where, it really has destroyed the middle class here in the United States. And ultimately, I believe that that's the end goal for these people, which is this wealth redistribution. But those are just my thoughts. I don't know. What do you guys think about all of this? What do you think's going on? I think right now I'm tired of the bullshit that I see constantly being put out in droves of propaganda by these two. Definitely let me know your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.